Afternoon, guys. It's Thursday, the 21st of December. It's blowing a bloody gale, so I could end up having to bail out of this exercise. I've removed the wiring that went to the bodybuilder's interface. I've just got it coiled up there. I use a normal method of flagging cables when I'm working them. Red is either to be reused or I need to investigate, and blue is redundant. And I just label things up accordingly. Right, so I have now got the cabling split down to the point where most of this I now need to keep. I found an old drawer. This used to be part of a TV cabinet. It's an oak drawer, and that's going to be very handy for putting the 3 Genisys modules in, a couple of relays, and a few leftover bits and pieces that need to go in there. The biggest problem I've got now is I've got cabling coming from over there in that harness over there, which go to the scene lights and a few other bits and pieces, mainly the cabling that goes to the night owl. I need to separate all those so I can take the remainder of this harness and poke it up through that hole. I've put this drawer on the wall here because I don't want to reduce the length of these thick cables, the live supply and the negative, and I don't want to try and coil them all up and bung them out of the way. So that will allow me to dress the harness along the cable management tray and up there at 90 degrees without having to chop those around. And that will just leave me having to shorten some of these cables here and lengthen some of these cables here, which are easier to manage. So, next task for me is to actually take that harness over there that comes from the left-hand side of the vehicle and separate it from this harness here, and then the vast majority of this, including this cable gland, I will be able to get through that hole there, and then I can start presenting it to the Genisys units, the earth buzz bar and some of the relays. And I will have to shorten quite a few of these, but it just seemed logical to give myself as much height as possible from the floor so we can put shoes and things down here and mount this a bit higher up. I didn't go too high because I'm not quite sure how far the backrest and the seat's going to go, but that will be high enough that I can actually see the unit, see the lights on it, and anything else. But there you go. I've even kept the handle on the drawer. Right, I'll stop now, split this off, and then come and talk to you about the Genisys connectors and how you get the pins out of them. It can be fun and games getting the pins out of these Genisys modules. These larger connectors that go to the output modules are relatively easy to do. There's a tab which you can just see there that needs to be bent back to allow the pin to be removed, and I prefer to remove them rather than cut the wires off. And the wire I want to get out is one of the ones that is the actual power feed to the night owl, and it's the one at the back. So I'm just going into the hole there in front of the pin with your screwdriver, and you end up pushing it in quite a long way, but with a bit of jiggly puggling and wiggling around, you can normally push the pin back far enough to get some movement, and there it comes out. There, you can just see the little barb there, and the screwdriver was just enough to push it down so that I could then pull out the connector, and then I will label that up to reflect the actual pin that it goes into the connector. It's already labelled up what it does. It's got the white label on it saying night owl, but I will label it up so I know which pin it came out the connector itself. And that's typically how to get these. So got out of focus again. That's typically how to get them out of these larger plugs. It's a bit more challenging with the smaller pins that go to the ECU module. You have to push a very, very, very narrow tool down the left and right hand side of the pins. I've got a bunch of, I won't even try and demonstrate that here because I've got a bunch of tools for doing, they're just extractor tools. It's a bit fiddly, but it's doable. But I'm not going to, I need about 5 hands to do it with the camera, so I'm not going to try and actually show you that. But basically, the technique is with a small, you can't do it with the screwdriver's too big. It's a fine bladed tool, either side of that, and that crushes 2 barbs on either side of the pin so that they will actually come out. That red wire there also says night owl. I want to take that out as well. So that's the signal from the night owl to tell Genisys it's actually raised. And the other red wire I've just taken out is the power to probably the 12 volt motor here for the night owl. There's a 12 volt compressor and a motor that raises it. So I'll get those out, but I thought I'd try and sort of cover off how to take these pins out. And say these connectors, it's a bit tricky, it's a bit of a knack, and you have to be very gentle because it's very easy to damage these pins. But once they're removed, you can then, with a standing knife or something, just bend the little barbs up just gently up again so that they can be plugged back in. And for the purpose of the exercise I'm doing at the moment, I need to take probably half a dozen pins out of these various connectors so that I can split these 2 harnesses up and feed them into the holes. There, you can see the little barbs. That's from I10, which is the night owl raise signal to the Genisys ECU. And I've just put a little standing knife behind the 2 barbs once I've got them out. Oh, focus. Gone again. Come back, you silly gadget. There is. I mean, these are really tiny. And the tool I've used is this. It's really thin little blade. They're made specifically. You can buy them on eBay, literally peanuts. You know, you end up with a bunch of different size tools. I've got loads and loads of different size ones, but they're all designed for pushing electrical pins out. And simply by working my way down, I've lost the connector there. Where's he gone? There he is. Working my way down one side of the pin, then the other. It's almost impossible to get down both sides at once. It's too tight. But you can get down either side, and eventually you'll flatten those pins enough that it will then come back past the plastic barbs that are inside the connector, and there it goes. And then I've labelled it up I10 because it goes to pin 10 and it's on the input module. It's been a couple of weeks, no it hasn't, it's been several weeks since I did the first part of this video. It's been either bloody wet or too cold, or I've been doing other stuff. But I thought I'd better finish off. I've got the dashboard back together now. I've also added my cruise control stalk. There is a video on YouTube about fitting cruise control to a Mark IV Daily. The guy took the steering wheel off. I didn't need to. The stalk actually just unclips. You have to take the lower cowling off to remove the connectors, but the stalk literally unclips. So I've got cruise control now. Right, Genisys is back in situ. I no longer have any cables running under the mat down here. I've put the radio, this is about the cheapest radio on the planet I reckon, but that was in the metal box that used to be between the seats, and I've lobbed it in the bottom there just so I've got a radio. And everything's now relocated. Let's just spin down and try not to fall out the step. So there's my little drawer, and I've also fitted an isolator switch. It's supposed to be 100 amp rated. I doubt it's actually capable of carrying that, but that just allows me to turn the Genisys modules off whilst the main isolator is still active in the back of the van. I relocated the ejector switch, or whatever to call it, over here. It seems a bit pointless having a cable running up to the dash, and I've connected up both speakers. Originally only one was plugged in. You do get different warning messages from the 2 speaker channels, so I've just logged them on there. And then this is all set up so that I can unscrew this panel and fold it forward when I come to trim this, this plastic material that the vehicle's built out of. And then a bit of cable management across the floor. I put the 3 relays that relate to the night owl over there. I haven't decided whether I'm going to keep the night owl yet, but pretty much all this cabling across here is just night owl and the side lights on the offside of the van. And I've kept the metal cable management trays in place for now, and I've also kept this lip that I've cut through this future doorway higher than it needs to be, and then there'll probably be a box that goes over that. I've not decided yet. I'm going to be putting a sliding door on this side, so I shall probably be boxing over all of this, and then I can get rid of that cable management and just drop the conduit down a bit. When I bought the van, I didn't actually notice that this Genisys module, output module number 2, was incorrectly labelled for this vehicle. If you look at it, it says O&H West Midlands INE. It's another module. It may have been programmed for this vehicle. I don't actually know if you actually have to program the output modules or not. But the legend on this label here, completely and utterly wrong. Didn't relate to anything that I was using. So as I've been going along, I've been writing down what each circuit does. And in the file section of the Ambulance Converters group on Facebook, there is a PDF template for these labels, which you can edit. So there's the correct label, which I've called Benson 2024. That's the correct label for this van, give or take a couple of the output module outputs that I don't actually know what they do. But one of the interesting things is, now that I know what these things actually do, the bottom two, the hand wash, which is a 300 watt DC unit, and the hot water one on the right there, which is an AC unit, these light up when the engine's running. There's no way to turn them off. So once you turn the ignition on, start the engine, they come on. I've got them disconnected, they don't do anything, but I haven't fathomed out how to actually turn them off, other than switching Genisys off. It's very, very odd. So it could be this module's not quite programmed properly, because they should turn off when you push the cancel all function button on the control panel. But as I said, I've made up a label. It's just stuck on with double-sided tape, and that gives me the information. And then probably what I will actually do is when I come to use these if I use these outputs for something else, because you can effectively use the Genisys control panel like an aux beam control panel. You can, as long as you're not exceeding the current rating of the output, you can use these to turn on all sorts of stuff. But I just thought I'd mention that you can easily create new labels if you know what the outputs do, or if you're repurposing them. Anyway, thanks for watching.